Edinburgh come out on top in the clash of the two most inconsistent sides in the URC. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. I think supporters of either of these teams would agree that, these are definitely the two most inconsistent sides in the URC over the last few years, especially I think this year as well. Not just, from game to game, but within games as well. And this game highlighted that too. Both teams up and down all the way through, back and forth. So let's talk about how things went. To start with, Connacht conceded a penalty at each of the first three lineouts, and they get a warning from the referee. They're basically really afraid of that Edinburgh maul. And it was so weird because Connacht have the best defensive lineout in the URC, but they weren't trying to compete. They were trying to basically prevent, a clean setup of the maul. And that's where all the penalties were coming from. And they very rarely competed in the air in the lineout. It was, I guess that's the tactic they decided with, that they were going to try and stop them all. It wasn't very effective. And if it was me, I'd look at it and think, well, if we get people up in the air, we make life difficult for them. But that's not what they did. Anyway, Edinburgh then, they get over from the next line out after going to the corner from the third penalty. They work up to the line, and then Schumann drives over to score. It's converted for 7 points to 0. Graham then knocks on at the restart, and Connacht have a chance to hit back from a scrum at the 22. Good carries from, it was, I think, Janssen was in there, right? But they get to about 5 minutes out, but then they knock the ball on. Edinburgh then look to launch an attack off a scrum, but Bunyaki smashes Ali Price, who spills the ball. Connacht then string together some decent phases. They're stretching the Edinburgh defence on the edge of the 22. They've got a chance out wide, but the pass, it went into touch, but it was one of those ones where it went into touch, but also it was tapped forward as well. But better signs from them at that stage. Ali Price then gets pinged for not using the ball after being warned twice. It's very rare you actually see that. Referees will say use the ball, and the scrum half can go on another 6-7 seconds and not get in any trouble. So to actually see somebody getting pinged, I think we saw it last week as well. Was it last week? It was recently anyway in a game. From here then, it's Connacht. They've got a scrum about 10 metres out from the line. They're out on the left. Bunyaki attacks, he attacks the line and attracts a bunch of defenders as well. Strong carry for him. Then Ben Murphy pops a pass for Keane Prendergast to go over. It's converted by JJ Handrahan, but then we have a TMO check for a possible crossing. And we knew this was coming because they're talking about it in the commentary on the game as well, that this is probably going to happen. Janssen runs into Bradbury, creates that hole for Prendergast to go through. So try ruled out, and it's hard to argue with the decision, honestly. Connacht then, they go to the corner from a penalty, win another penalty, and then Heffernan taps it. But whatever the plan was from the tap wasn't what they did, because he basically taps that and it's passed back and it goes to nobody and make an absolute mess of it. They're 10 metres back from where they started. Then Schumann turns the ball over for Edinburgh. I thought he was excellent tonight. And then Edinburgh run it out from their own line and just basically clear the danger. Then they strike again. They work it to width, and Watson just shows brilliant pace. And he's got, I think it was maybe Price on his inside support, but he just uses him as distraction really for the cover defence and goes over in the corner, converted for 14 points to 0. Connacht then win a scrum penalty, and they have a chance to go up the line, but Hanrahan misses touch, and you really feel like they need to find some momentum, because Edinburgh haven't had that many chances, but they're taking them. And if they keep that scoreboard ticking over, then, just going to be no way back for Connacht. Oliver then gets Connacht into the 22. But as they recycle, then Sykes gets over the ball to win a penalty for Edinburgh. Decent scramble defence, and half-time is 14-0. And I think, that was the difference between the teams, was Edinburgh were taking their chances, maybe, poor defence from Connacht as well, and then very good defence from Edinburgh. The main differences between the teams. Second half then, Connacht strike right at the start, basically the first minute. Strong run by Shane Bolton gets them on the front foot. They work it wide for Finn Tracy. He goes over, converted for 14 points to 7. Good work from him as well, because he went over and then he bent his run back inside to make the conversion kick a little easier. Then we have a barnstorming run from Janssen, gets Connacht back to the edge of the 22. Edinburgh scramble well. Connacht recycle a few times before they knock on. And a lot of those knock-ons, it was just the pressure from the Edinburgh defence. They were up in their faces all the time, very physical. Then Edinburgh went back to back penalties. First a scrum, then from Maul. But then they dummied the throw at the line-out, and a decent chance gone to kill that, Connacht momentum that was building. And from there, that allowed Connacht then to get a decent position in the Edinburgh half. Janssen again carrying well up the middle. Then Tracy picks a great line and goes slicing through the middle of defence and under the post, converted for 14 points all. And then have a Timo check for a high tackle from Hanrahan onto Palatu. It looks like shoulder to shoulder, but the Timo, Tom Spurrier, prompts referee Ben Breakspear, says, have another look at, his fist is closed, when he's making the tackle, but referee's saying, no, there's an attempted wrap there. I'm very happy with my own decision, and he's not swayed by him at all. So fair play to him for sticking to his guns. I'm not saying that because I'm wearing a Connacht shirt. If you watch my channel any amount of times, that I try to be as fair as possible on it. But yeah, I thought he was making the right decision there, and he wasn't going to be swayed. But Palatu does have to go off on a stretcher. Looks like some kind of leg injury, because there's a splint on his leg after they put him on the cart, and wish him a speedy recovery. His brother is obviously going off the lines, but they were talking about he was probably due to tour with Scotland over the summer, so that would have been a brilliant chance for him to progress himself. So yeah, fingers crossed that he's going to be fit for that summer tour, and it's not as bad as it looked. And they were saying it looked like his studs got caught in they said in the grass, but I think, isn't it an artificial? Is it an artificial? Yeah, it's pretty sure it's artificial pitch there right at the Dexcom. But got stuck anyway under him, and maybe like twisted badly or something like that. But yeah, hope he's fitting well, in not too long, because I never like to see players from any team getting injured. Next then, Paul Boyle gets pinged into 22, and Connacht get a warning from the referee that the next one is going to go to the bin. Edinburgh go to the corner from the penalty. Connacht initially repelled them all, but then Edinburgh kind of splinter off a little bit. They go forward again. Connacht really desperately trying to contain him, and Muncaster comes off the maul and gets over to score. Nice conversion as well from Thompson to make it 21 points to 14. Edinburgh then, they win a scrum penalty, and Thompson, he's looking to get every single metre out of it, trying to get it right down it deep into the 22, but Cordero manages to keep it in, and then he puts a brilliant kick back up the field. Connacht then make Edinburgh's maul from that resulting line out unplayable, turn the ball over. Really getting the crowd going now. Keane Prendergast came right through the middle, Then they win a penalty at the resulting scrum, and now it's them that's kicking into 22. So a big reversal there. They move it infield, and then they go back out wide to Bolton, who goes over in the corner. Hanrahan nails the touchline conversion, and we're tied up at 21 all. Edinburgh then, they come forward again. Tracy catches the elusive Darcy Graham, and then Tierney Martin gets over the ball to win a penalty. Connacht, though, they knock on at the line out, but Edinburgh were playing the man in the air, so Connacht go up the line into the 22. Paul Boyle then with a strong carry, but then Edinburgh counter ruck really well and are able to clear the ball. And, that was the real difference, I think, between the teams. Was Connacht, even around that time when both teams are equal, they're making entries into the 22, but Edinburgh's defence was so much better than Connacht's in similar situations. Then, back on Connacht, Blade snipes within 5 metres. Good Edinburgh defence, driving them back again. Then Hamish Watson gets over the ball to win a penalty. And then around the same time, Connacht, they had a penalty where they could have just gone for the posts and put themselves ahead and kind of changed the dynamic of the game, but they didn't. And then shortly after that, then Charlie Shields, he's shaping for a box kick, and then notice that, Connacht aren't really switched on, and just snipes right through the middle, and then has the pace to go from halfway and finish under the post, converted for 28 points to 1. Yeah, Connacht really caught napping there, and it felt like that's the winning of the game right there. Connacht then, they come forward again. They're back into 22, but again, inaccuracy in their passing allows Edinburgh to apply pressure, and they knock the ball on. Then finally, Connacht offside, and Edinburgh point to the post. Healy, consummate professional that he is, does what every good 10 does in that situation. He uses every single second of the clock that he can and slots the penalty over, and that's pretty much game over. 31 points to 21 is the full-time score, and a well-deserved win for Edinburgh in that one. Okay, so let's look at the stats, and then we'll talk about each of the teams. So let me pull them up here on the official site. Okay, so first off on attack, tries, 3 tries to 4. So that's a bonus point win for Edinburgh. So, both these teams had slim chances of making the playoffs. Certainly Connacht's much slimmer than Edinburgh. So a 5-point win for Edinburgh, huge boost to them. And they're going to start believing again after that. I think possession then 59% to 41 for Connacht. So most of the ball for them. Clean break 7 to 6. But you see Edinburgh so much more efficient because defenders beaten 24 for Connacht and 11 for Edinburgh. So Connacht, less than 1 in 3 defenders being converted into a break, whereas Edinburgh slightly over 1 in 2 for them. Offloads then 6 for Connacht, 4 for Edinburgh. Onto defence territory, 65% for Connacht, 35 for Edinburgh. So again, Edinburgh with much smaller share of the ball and also territory as well, but they did so much more with what they had. Number of tackles made, 72 for Connacht, 131 for Edinburgh. Missed tackles, 11 to 24. So tackle success, 78% for Connacht, 79 for Edinburgh. Not great numbers, honestly, there in defences. We talk about, a lot in the URC. You're looking for maybe 85 as kind of a pass mark. Turnovers 1, then 5 for Connacht and 5 for Edinburgh as well. Both teams, as the game swung back and forth, winning those vital turnovers. But in the end, it was Edinburgh who really come up with the big plays and the big turnovers at that stage where Connacht, they got themselves back level for the second time in the game. They had chances to potentially go ahead and they didn't do it. And, that's the kind of killer for both of these teams in a lot of their performances, right? Is that they get themselves in positions and they don't deliver. It was Edinburgh that actually delivered today and not Connacht. On to kicking then, kicks retained, 2 for Connacht and none for Edinburgh. Not a hugely, influential part of the game in terms of the kicking, both teams looking to run the ball as much as they could. Penalties conceded then 16 for Connacht. That's a lot of penalties, especially for a team that didn't get anyone going to the bin. They got warned twice in the game, and I thought they probably would have at some stage, had someone go to the bin. But I think pretty much both times Edinburgh ended up scoring shortly after, so kind of reset the counter, as it were, for the yellow card, and then 8 conceded by Edinburgh. So, again, keep it in single figures and you're doing well. On to players then, attack. You got 2 tries from Finn Tracy, one for Pierre Schoeman for Edinburgh as well. Always a very popular figure with their fans, and he really is, a real talisman for them. And he had, as I said, he had an absolutely excellent game today, both in the set piece and in the loose. Successful carries then, Conor Oliver with 8 for Connacht. He's leaving the province now at the end of the season, and you wonder with players like that, are they whoever they're replacing with, is it going to be an improvement? Because that guy is pretty handy, as he showed in this game. Then Ewan Ashman with 4 carries for Edinburgh. Clean breaks then, Shane Bolton with 2 and Jack Brown with 2 as well. Jack Brown, another guy who he's come into the Edinburgh team now. I'm pretty sure he's playing fullback today, right? And yeah, he looks to the manner born, a young guy, and he looks like, he definitely could be, a fixture in that Edinburgh team. If he stays fit, obviously, because, with young players, that's the thing, right? You come in, you have a brilliant first season, then you get an injury and you're in and out of the team for the next couple of seasons, and suddenly you're not the young guy coming through anymore. There's another young fella coming along. So fingers crossed for him that he can keep developing. The Apprentice beaten then, Cordero with 5 and Thompson with 3 for Edinburgh. Meters made, Shane Bolton with 81 and Charlie Shield with 63. And most of those 63 meters were that, game-winning try that he scored where he sniped, because he was in his own half when he started there. So that's 50-odd meters right there. Offloads then, Sean Jansen with 2 and Schoeman with 2 for Edinburgh. Onto defence, Conor Oliver, 10 tackles, Hamish Watson, 15. Brilliant in defence from him, like the tackles, but also getting over the ball, either winning turnovers, winning penalties, or just making that ball a complete mess for Connacht and slowing it down on them. Turnovers 1 then, Cordero with 2 and Jack Brown with 1. So let's talk about the teams. We start with the home team, Connacht. So slim chance they had to make the playoffs. I talked about it, last round, that I honestly didn't think that they were going to make it after losing the last game, that there was very little chance of them actually getting in there. And obviously now there's no chance of them getting in there. And it's because of performances like this that I felt like they wouldn't get in, is that, basically they needed to win 2 games on the bounce, and they needed other results to go their way as well. And any Connacht fan will tell you winning 2 games on the bounce is a big ask for this team. They're up and down all the time. So they might go on. You never know, they might win their last one, but it won't matter at that stage anyway. And that would be typical Connacht, honestly, to go and do that. So definitely, they've got to. There's a lot of players now leaving at the end of the season. The likes, some players who've been, not necessarily this season, but in past seasons, like the Porch, who've been brilliant for them, or players who've been really good, like Conor Oliver this year as well. But there's plenty of players leaving. They've got to replace them with players who are not just going to be like for like, that are going to actually improve the squad as well. And they've got to get some better leadership in that team too, because that's where that whole thing of, up and down all the time is, and it's the same for Edinburgh as well, it's the mental side of the game and the leadership within the team as well, right? That if you're capable of reaching a certain standard, and, you can't be reaching near that week on week, then there's definitely a problem with the mental side of things, and just kind of getting people up properly for games. And then also within games, if you're up and down all the time, like, it means there's problem with leadership, problem with concentration during the game that really shouldn't be there. So yeah, they definitely need to flesh out the squad a bit more. Edinburgh, fantastic win for them. They give them themselves a chance, similar to last year, really, going into the final round of the season, knowing that if they can produce, they're going to make the top 8. But last year they went away to Benetton in the final game, and they just didn't turn up at all. And my fear is that they're going to do the same thing again. Worked really hard to get into the position, and then they throw it away. Hopefully, it's not going to happen to them. But again, Connacht and Edinburgh, like, fans should probably make some kind of support group between the two of them, because they're so their teams are so similar, and the fans must, I'd say, very much be able to relate to each other in terms of looking at a team and seeing how brilliantly they can perform one week or even like for 20 minutes in a game or for one half of the game, and then how poorly they play the next week or the next 20 minutes or the next half of the game or wherever it is, right? They're basically just the same team almost, like, just the way they are. But I hope, Edinburgh can sort things out and produce. But for me, I think it's very similar to Connacht, is that they probably need something from outside of the current squad, whether that's players or coaches or whatever, to kind of get that consistency in the game that I think they really need. But great win for them. They have that chance. It's now up to them to take it. So let me know what you think down in the comments.